What's up, guys? My name is Dev.
London Live, how you doing?
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
There are so many stories about the amazing courage shown by footballers on the front line.
And what have the hippies done so far? Have they ruined anything?
I can't comment on that, sir.
The female defendant concocted the murder.
Money is at the heart of everything we do.
Even my daddy is this.
Hi there. I'm Simon from Green Rock. There's just a bit of the stuff that we do, and so I'm talking today about content production and music, using content production as a workflow in the cloud. And I'm just going to share a bit about our journey at Green Rock as we've moved from a traditional post facility, and over the last 3 years we've diversified into an end-to-end content agency, and really it was a cloud-based workflow that enabled us to do that. And so and Adobe have been with us for part of that journey, so they've invited me here to talk to you a bit about that. And really it's been a journey of both reinvention and innovation, and using cloud to really innovate around the business. And you know, I think that's something that I just want to pick up on today. I was at a talk recently where someone asked the question, which came first? Was it the inventor or was it the innovator? And really, it doesn't really matter, because we can't all be inventors ourselves, but we can all innovate. And actually, the most enduring inventions, I'm sure you'll agree, that we've seen in the world as we look around today, have come from people that have taken technology and innovated it to change things around them. And we've seen that through history. So join me, Will, as I very quickly frame this, because what I want to ask you guys, are we using the tools around us to service our industry and our businesses, or are we using it to innovate? As we look back through time, journey back to 6,000 years BC, and this was the first mirror invented by the Turks, and very quickly that was adapted to shined bronze. The Romans invented blown glass, but who were they to know that through innovation this would become used in spacecrafts, cameras, and medical equipment, and still being innovated today. And history's full of stories of famous inventors, of people who are often national heroes, people like Thomas Edison, who didn't actually invent the light bulb, or the glass bulb, or the filament inside it, but he pulled it together to make it commercially viable in 1880, and took the reputation with him. And similarly, Henry Ford, he didn't invent the car, but he invented a production line that made it commercially viable and affordable. And hey, the rest is history. And look, we've come a long way in our industry, and so I make this point just to kind of frame this discussion this morning about using the tools that we have at our disposal to really progress in our industry. And look, we've come a long, long way, and our industry is only less than 100 years old, and we've come a long way since from televised radio from the BBC in the early 1900s. But really, what I want to talk about today is, we've seen some of these exciting gadgets here at IBC, but what are the ones that have actually changed our industry since these days? Was it colour TV? Was it VHS? I know I don't look old enough, but I do remember it. Was it non-linear editing? And so I think as we've look back and look at the changes that we've seen, that question seems quite pertinent. Was it the creative minds that pushed technology, or did technological advancements push creatives to innovate? And I would argue that one of the last seismic shifts we've seen in our industry that was led by technology was tapeless workflows. Being able to capture fast, mark up clips, enable a different sort of workflow and indeed informed a different type of storytelling. And it paved the way for reality TV. And believe it or not, that was a new term just 15 years ago. And obviously now it's everywhere. And one of my first jobs as an editor was working on Big Brother in the early days. And I was talking to the first series director, Tony Gregory, recently, and he explained to me how he used the EVS system. And it was a system that at the time had been devised for sports TV to play back live material in slow motion. And the problem posed with reality TV using tapes was that when they were trying to replay a clip and spool to that location on a tape, it became impossible. And the challenge that they had was that running orders and schedules were changing minutes up to broadcast or even during broadcast. And so running through and spooling a tape was just impractical. And so Tony brought in the EVS system so that could enable a much faster and flexible production during the long run that they run. But look, it was that innovation that really then paved the way for how reality TV was made. And also that innovation of kit went on to then not just provide greater efficiency in the workflow, cost saving, time saving, but it also enabled more space. Getting rid of tape libraries enabled them to build more studios so that not only could you enjoy 24 hours of Big Brother, but you could have Big Brother's little brother and Big Brother's little cousin and so on and so on. But what it did do was inform another problem, which was storage. So, we may have got rid of tapes, but producers, who initially were using Digibito and could be constrained to 32 minutes, now felt like they could hit record on a camera and off they go. And so the problems there was, poor editors that were receiving 12 hours of footage for just a 3-minute promo, and I'm speaking from experience, was quite hard. And the edit facilities as well, where due to much more hours and hours and hours of footage, we're having to then provide more storage space. LTO systems got backed up, which slowed things down. And as we moved from SD to HD to 4K, something had to give. But during this time, internet speeds got faster, codecs improved, and storage became cheaper and smaller. And so innovation really led us to the cloud. And so today I'm going to talk about this because I think this is the new seismic shift that's fundamentally changing how we produce and distribute content. Now, stats say that 41% of media companies are already working in a cloud-based environment, so forgive me if I'm teaching you to suck eggs. But for a lot of people, they're still thinking about this or not thinking about this, and I would say, what are you waiting for? This is... now's the time to do it because I think we are in a climate driven by the pressures of speed to market. And I think a cloud-based approach enables you to keep up with these demands and really change your business. And for us, I can only talk about our experience where a few years ago we were going through some big changes in our post facility in London. And we were looking at ripping out and restarting our whole facility. But I recognised that it was going to be more of just a replacing of equipment. The opportunity was to really look around the industry and what was happening. And for us, as we were also diversifying away from being a pure traditional post-production facility and moving our decade of broadcast storytelling experience into production, and notably branded content. And it's really here where the demands of wanting that, always on, fast turnaround video production requirement, getting to an edit as quickly as possible, has really driven a change in our business. And I think that industry is only going to grow, and I think particularly with 85% of web traffic is expected to be video by 2020. We made the changes because we could see that this was both an opportunity but also a necessity to make these changes in our business. So instead of investing more in local storage at our facility, we reinvested and looked at moving our data to the cloud, but also looking around that. How could we innovate with our production that got from set to a cloud-based workflow as quickly as possible? And really, this was where we changed our thinking, where, cloud-based technology. I mean, I was on a panel yesterday with the guys from Google Cloud, and they had he said they had a sticker on his laptop just to remind him that, cloud is just using someone else's hard drive. That's really it, without a wire. And I thought it was a nice way that he put it, because I think sometimes it can get convoluted and overcomplicated, but really, it's a service. It's how you innovate around that. How can you change your business to use that workflow and transform yourself? Much like the glass mirror. How can we use this technology to innovate around it? So with this in mind, we challenged our post team to really rethink everything. We actually also switched our whole facility from Macs to PCs, which was met with shock. And we questioned our whole NLE system. We were moving from a very traditional model using Avid and Final Cut Pro, but we needed something that would not both service our deliveries to the BBC, to Netflix, but it also had to work with our new sort of delivery, the demands of a new type of content company, which was short form and heavy with graphics as well. And so Premiere Pro became the obvious choice for us, because it really enabled a multi-channel branded content output, but it also gave us that capability to bring more stuff in-house as well, particularly with Photoshop and After Effects, which just became a must in our workflow. And I think we saw that with the clients that we were working with, who were coming into our facility, and I think they were kind of used to that traditional workflow where they'll come into an edit suite and it's like, oh well, we need to do some graphics. Where are we sending it? Well, no, that's just happening in the next room. And we would use the Mercury playback engine to update our timeline from After Effects straight into Premiere Pro, and that the look on our producers' faces was like, oh, well, this is brilliant. They're not having to run around Soho to lots of different facilities. So again, we were just thinking, this is changing our industry. And, and I think it's something that is an expectation now. I don't think gone are the days where you can work on an edit and have that sort of added cost. I think there's an expectation of trying to do as much as you can. So really, the Creative Cloud environment enables so much more efficiency. And really, that was really our foray into working with Adobe. And I've got to say, they went above and beyond to help us implement that. And I think as we were looking to the future and the changes we wanted to make, it was met with the people from Adobe who really felt they were also a very future-looking company and also very collaborative in the way they wanted to work. They wanted to listen to the creative community, to find out about the things that we were doing. They were sharing other stories from the community. And, if you haven't already, do speak to the guys here and talk about the productions you're working on, because from experience, they really, really want to and will help you. And I think that's really why we moved our whole business really to be aligned with Adobe. And in doing so, we actually became the first Adobe-only post facility in the UK. And I think having that relationship as you're making a roadmap to some significant changes, it's crucial. For us, when we shared our aspirations to become a completely cloud-based production company, they just said to us, we should talk. And there were three words that really stuck with me. To have a big company like Adobe that wants to communicate, to support, to partner, and to innovate your plans. Three words, we should talk. It's something that has changed our business, and we've thrived because of it. So as we, talking really is where innovation begins. And as we started talking to Adobe about how can we innovate our production process, we started also to look at how can we upload content from anywhere in the world with a fast connection and make our production process much more efficient from set into post-production. Last year we had a producer came to us who was working with a music group touring all around the world, and he talked to me about his workflow because as much as he recognised he was filming, his post-production workflow was going to be backing up on drives and then lugging them into bags and dragging them around the world. I could see a problem was going to be looming and disaster was going to strike. So I said to him, look, it's not a problem. Why don't we set this up as a cloud-based workflow? And so what we did was we looked at his whole production, and rather than just thinking of it as shooting schedule, we started looking at what points can you start using the cloud within your production schedule, overlapping the two, starting to think about post as part of the production shooting schedule. And so what we did was set up a workflow whereby he could upload material on the road up to our cloud, and that what that also meant was we could prep rushes using the Creative Cloud and Adobe Prelude, and also start building sequences for him, doing sync pulls, so that as he was traveling, he wasn't thinking, oh my goodness, when I get back, I've got this huge edit to start. He knew that his rushes were securely saved, the edits were being prepped, and he could log in as and when he wanted to and view it from proxies anywhere in the world. But such innovative workflows aren't always easy to implement. I'm not going to lie. We are still also at the point where you rely partly on an upload speed, but it does still surprise me. There's still a bit of reluctance for cloud technology workflows, and I think the TV industry particularly is can be quite traditional and a bit slow to change. I think that's really at their own peril, really, because you look around and the tech disruptors that are bringing in AR, VR, 4K and 8K content very soon, and who's going to be broadcasting it? It's going to be cloud-based broadcasters and IP streaming services. So it's not just production companies. Cloud-based workflows are just going to be business as usual very soon. But I can understand there is a reason for slow adopters. It's change. And in our industry has always been met with a bit of fear around change, as with every industry. When we switched from digibeta to cards, people asked, oh, what if we lost the cards? What if they became corrupt or they smashed? I never realised digibetas were so reassuringly indestructible. But anyway, but look, this is progress. I think we've talked about the journey of where we've got to, and really the whole point of a complete cloud-based workflow is to take that fear away and build in security around it and increase efficiency. But it's really important to plan ahead. This isn't something that you can pull off the shelf. As I said, you are essentially using someone else's hard drive, but it's the workflow around it that is so important, and that's what you've got to plan for. We recently posted a series for HBO in America, and they'd been filming all around the world and doing partly post-production all around the world. But they wanted to bring their post-production to Green Rock in London, and of course we were happy to help them. But we suggested to consolidate their production into a cloud-based workflow. No, thank you, they said. And we were like, it will, they said, we'll just transfer everything over on hard drives and drips and drabs. And we were like, it will actually be cheaper to use a cloud-based environment, because the other thing is, have conversations with cloud providers. It's completely scalable. It's not like a hard drive where you'll buy 8 terabytes and then you're stuck with those 8 terabytes, whatever the cost. Most cloud providers are scalable. If you've got a production running for 12 weeks and you know that you're going to use 10 terabytes of data for 12 weeks, great. That's what you'll pay for. When it's finished, you scale that back down and you're not paying for it anymore. And again, that's a really interesting model for production. But no, they were keen just to use their hard drives, and we told them, look, it's cheaper than using hard drives, not to mention your data is much more secure, and you'll be able to access it anywhere in the world. And when they were still all around the world, we're like, this is going to help you. No, thank you very much. But as they put their drive in the post from FedEx and it actually got lost or misplaced for a couple of weeks, fear ensued. And as quick as you could say, I told you so, we implemented a cloud-based workflow for them. And really, needless to say, it's changed the way they've thought about their production workflow. But I've got to say, also, I think we learned a valuable lesson too, and that is that cloud workflows need to be presented as less of a service added and more of a business as usual. I think we've gone past the stage of it being a nice to have. Really, you should be thinking of this as something that you just build into your workflow now. And look, with post-production, well, it's changed the way we at GreenRock do everything now. I mean, historically, when our production facility was running at 100%, although that's great for our business and our bottom line, it's not great for our partners and their schedules. But again, as we changed our mindset from thinking of our facility as, with bricks and mortar and with storage in the middle, suddenly with our cloud-based environment, we recognised that our business suddenly we had global access, and it meant changed the way we managed our clients, but also how we engaged with new ones. And Adobe were absolutely bang on point. What we started embedding into our business through Premiere Pro was when our suites became oversubscribed, we used Adobe Team Projects. And what that meant was that some of our projects that we were using within GreenRock, we could say to some of our editors, just take a laptop, log in online, and they could download proxies created through Premiere Pro and through Team Projects and carry on the edit wherever they were securely. But then also that's rethought the way that we engage with some of our brand clients who, again, don't want to work in an edit suite or want to have pop-up edit suites within their own buildings. And so suddenly we're thinking, well, how can we use this sort of setup where we can push edit suites or pop-up edits into businesses or into new ways of working. So suddenly we've become, from a small post facility to a 24/7 global content agency with a global offering. We're talking to editors in America. In fact, just this morning I had a LinkedIn message from a post facility in Jamaica wanting to link in with us, knowing our workflow, and also specialist editors as well. We're now reaching out to animators in Singapore, some fantastic After Effects editors that we're working with. And then suddenly you're no longer thinking about the geography of but also the time zones. We can now work with brands and work through the night to deliver their projects. So it's a very, very exciting time, and these sorts of workflows, I think, will really transform the plans of your business. So what next? Well, I'm sure we're not the only company that's diversified from the birth of game-changing social media and cloud platforms, the likes of Facebook and YouTube, which really, they only started 10 years ago. So we've seen an incredible amount of change just in the last 10 years, and I think we'll see a similar amount of change in the next few. And really, these are the sort of demands that we're going to see. Immersive content, personalized content, the ability. What we're going to see, I think, really is the eradication of slow workflows that rely on human decisions and actually bring in AI. Things like content anywhere, seamless experience, where I think, as we start to see 5G technology, 4K cameras, AR capability in phones, we're going to see some drastic changes the way consumers want to experience content, and that's going to have to be seamless. And so if we're not thinking about the seamless interaction of the way we want to experience content, then we need to tack towards that. And once again, I think we're seeing technology is enabling us to think of, for creatives, to think of new ways that we can produce and distribute content around the world. And I think, with every viewer connected to the internet as well, whether that's through a device, through a smart TV, AI will, get rid of inefficient workflows. I think what we'll start to see is edits being made live on cloud servers based on human viewing data and also gestures. So really, again, it's that idea of a cloud-based technology and thinking about how can we make that into a broader workflow to really match the way consumers are wanting to consume content. And really, the way we tell stories is evolving in different ways. We're at GreenRock, we're working with brands, forward-thinking brands that are thinking, what does cloud-based technology mean for them? One of the brands that we're working with is in the UK is NatWest, a bank, and they're thinking about how can they use content to start a new relationship for millennials Because today's millennials will be home buyers in 10 years' time, and they're not going to be stepping foot into a branch. They are going to be talking to brands through video content and engagement in conversations on their terms. So what they're going to want is always on-demand content, and that's going to change the way brands have to think about how they store, produce content. It's a cloud-based approach and a channel-based approach, and looking at that sort of how-to immediacy with content. But what's also interesting for us is we've sort of taken this journey from traditional broadcast production into content production. It's not just the way we produce content, but the data that we've got back. And I think this is also a really exciting time for us. This project that we work on, it was seen, first episode was seen by 2 million people, which was a huge amount of numbers for a bank, believe me. But what was really exciting was the data we got back. We could understand where people were watching, the devices they were watching on, were they on a commute, and we could then take that data back into Creative Cloud and work for it. And so what we're looking at the moment is using Adobe Experience Cloud and bringing that data into our Creative Cloud environment. And I think we'll start to see this more and more. And I think actually in times to come, we're going to start seeing that data being brought straight in, social media data coming straight into Premiere Pro. So it's prompting the creative process, the decisions that we're making, the edits that we're making, the graphics, where on the screen people are viewing, should inform the way that we are producing content, because at the end of the day, we are driven by more and more in this world by results. And so it absolutely makes sense that the Adobe Experience Cloud and the Creative Cloud come together as one Adobe, and that's something that at GreenRock we're really excited to be doing. And look, it really it's something that really pushes us. And look, we need to keep challenging ourselves. It's one thing that we've learned as we've taken this journey over the last couple of years into a cloud-based workflow is you have to keep challenging. You have to stay light on your feet, challenging our colleagues, our partners out there, so that we can get better and get faster. But look, as much as it's sometimes it's scary to see change, it's a huge opportunity as well. The demand for smart content is only going to go up, and we need to be prepared for that. It's not about servicing for the now. As you start this journey to a cloud, you've really got to be thinking, how is this going to change my business for the future? And moving data into the cloud is the first part of the puzzle. But creating that end-to-end process as you move from camera to storage to edit to distribution, that's the challenge that we must work together to achieve. And as we found, when you start putting your head in the cloud, you'll realize is that the process has not only become easier, but the possibilities to innovate your productions are endless. And I really think the whole industry benefits when we hear about it. So all I ask is that we talk. All right, thanks very much for your time.